Hey there, my name's Paula Pant, and let's talk about 7 expensive rental property mistakes that I would like to help you avoid. Number 1 is relying on appreciation. When your cousin Billy says, "Oh, I want to buy this house because I think it's going to go up in value," he's referring to something called market appreciation. Now, market appreciation is based on broad economic forces outside of your control. So it's different than forced appreciation, which is when the property of a value goes up because of something that you yourself directly did. Forced appreciation is fantastic. It's a way to create value in your rental properties, but market appreciation is not. So when you go to buy a rental property, buy something that's based on the cap rate. We'll cover that in later. Buy something that's based on either the cap rate or the cash flow, not on speculation about what the market might do. As I like to say, appreciation is speculation. So please don't make a 6-figure mistake by buying a speculative property. That is mistake number 1. Mistake number 2, over-leveraging. Leverage is a lever. It can either propel you upwards very quickly or it can push you downwards quite quickly. Unfortunately, in the world of real estate, there are a lot of people who are leverage happy. So you need to be very careful about who you listen to, because there are a lot of people out there on the internet who will encourage you to take on lots and lots and lots and lots of leverage with this attitude that more is better. And they will sell you on concepts like the cash-on-cash return in order to say, hey, look, you only put $500 of your own money into the deal and you made thousands of dollars, therefore you did really well. It's not that I'm super anti-leverage, but I would be very cautious about it. And I would be particularly cautious about listening to people who have this flippant, more is better attitude towards leverage. So mistake number 2 that I often see real estate investors making is over-leveraging and doing it in a way that is not cognizant of the inherent risks that come with leveraging. Mistake number 3, using the wrong formulas. So as I just mentioned, a lot of people rely on the cash-on-cash return formula to make a bad deal look good. That's a huge mistake. If you wouldn't buy something in cash, then don't buy it with a loan. Unfortunately, the way that a lot of people teach real estate is they teach it in such a way that you have to depend on loans in order to make the deal work out. And that's a huge mistake. That's why I teach my students not to rely on the cash-on-cash return formula when you're trying to decide what property to buy. Instead, look at cap rate so that way you know that the property in and of itself is a good property that pays you a solid dividend. And then after you know that the property is good, you can look at different financing arrangements. But if you use the wrong formulas, and this goes back to just listening to the wrong teachers or listening to the wrong people, if you listen to people who steer you in the wrong direction, you might make not just make a 6-figure mistake, but unfortunately you might borrow money to make a 6-figure mistake, which is even worse. So you want to be very careful about which formulas you use when you're deciding what rental property to buy. I say rely on the cap rate formula and do not look at the cash-on-cash return formula. So that's mistake number 3, using the wrong formulas. Mistake number 4, using magical BS accounting. There are a lot of people who unfortunately have this mindset that if I do the work myself, then the expense is 0. So there are people who think, well, you know what? If I don't hire a property manager, then the line item for property management expense is 0. And so when they're filling out their spreadsheets, when they're trying to decide if a property is a good deal or not, they will put the wrong data into that spreadsheet, and then it becomes garbage in, garbage out. Because by putting in the wrong data, by valuing your own time at 0 and somebody else's time at greater than 0, you're not actually running good math, and so you're not actually doing a good analysis. Math, in order to be math, it must be identity agnostic. And so the mistake that I see a lot of people make is that they value their own time at nothing and then mistakenly believe that a certain property is a good deal when in fact it isn't. So that is mistake number 4, using BS math. Mistake number 5, not having a strategy. I see a lot of people who will say things like, oh, you know what, I'm just gonna buy this house and I'll live in it for a while and then maybe I'll move out and rent it out and hopefully it'll go up in value. That's not a strategy. That's basically another way of saying, I don't have a plan. As a real estate investor, the thing that separates you from cousin Billy, the avid hobbyist, is that you actually have a strategy going in. You have a plan A, you have a plan B. You approach this as a professional. And guess what? If you want to make money at something, if you want to do something well, you need to treat it like a business, not like a hobby that you hope works out. So that is mistake number 5, not having a strategy. Mistake number 6, using the notion of rental property to justify a personal expense. Look, if you want to buy a vacation home for yourself, that's awesome. But be clear about what is an investment property and what is a personal property. If you want to buy a vacation home and then offset some of that cost by renting it out when you're not using it, that's great. That's a personal expense, and you're offsetting the cost of some of that personal expense by using it as a rental. That is very different than buying an investment property for the purpose of it being an investment. Similarly, if you're house hacking and you want to buy a personal residence for yourself so that you can live somewhere, and you want to offset some of that cost by, say, buying a duplex and renting it out, that's awesome. But buying a personal residence for yourself is different than buying an investment property. Now, that being said, you might buy an investment property that's specifically strategized as an investment property, but also that is a duplex, and you house hack into it and live in one of the units so that you can qualify for better financing. That's awesome. But be clear on what you're doing. Be clear on whether you're buying a personal residence or an investment property, because those are conceptually extremely different, and the math and the analysis that you'll use as you make those purchases are worlds apart. So be clear on what you're doing. We talk a lot about that in my course, Your First Rental Property. So that is mistake number 6 that I see a lot of rental investors make. A lot of people are unclear as to whether they're buying a personal property or an investment property. And as a result, the thing that they buy is a little bit of both and therefore not good at doing either. Finally, mistake number 7 is listening to the wrong people. You've got to be very, very careful about who you learn from, because there are some people who will lead you astray. Perhaps not with any malicious intent, but they'll maybe encourage you to be too aggressive. They'll encourage you to take out too much debt. They won't teach you critical thinking and judgment skills. They'll maybe come at this with this attitude of, my ideas are best, so just do what I say, and they won't show you how to think for yourself and show you how to execute judgment. So be careful who you listen to, because your actions are going to reflect that. And those actions that you take have 6-figure consequences. So choose your teachers carefully. Those are 7 rental property investing mistakes that I often see people make. Be on the lookout for all of those, because any one of those mistakes might end up costing you thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. So be careful. Real estate is one of those fields where you can make a lot of money or you can lose a lot of money. So make sure that you take your time to really know what you're doing, and so that when you do enter the world of real estate, you start strong. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Paula Pant. If you'd like to learn more, go to affordanything.com/VIP list, and you can get a free 7-day series on rental property investing. Again, that's affordanything.com/VIP list to get a free 7-day series on rental property investing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.